Hallo und herzlich willkommen. Wie schön, dass Sie alle hier sind an diesem sehr warmen, was haben wir heute? Freitag, Mittag. Das Filmfest läuft schon ein paar Tage. Sie merken es, mein Gehirn hat zumindest Zeit vergessen, aber ich habe nicht vergessen, dass jetzt etwas stattfindet, worauf ich mich schon seit Wochen freue, seit ich gehört habe, dass ich diesen FilmTalk führen darf. Es ist ein unfassbar schöner Film und ich prahle jetzt mit meinem Angeberwissen, weil ich ihn schon sehen konnte. Die Weltpremiere ist erst in 2 Stunden. Es geht um den Film Poison und es geht um das, was diesen Film im Innersten wahrscheinlich zusammenhält. Und zwar ist es die Kunst von Schauspiel. Und wir wollen über Acting sprechen, the art of acting. Und das macht natürlich nur Sinn, wenn man das mit hervorragenden SchauspielerInnen tut. Ich bitte Sie jetzt hier ganz herzlich zu begrüßen. Sie ist selber Schauspielerin, sie ist Moderatorin und jetzt ist sie auch Regisseurin. Bitte begrüßen Sie herzlich Désirée Nosbusch. Wir machen es uns gleich bequem, Désirée, aber wir haben natürlich noch mehr Menschen dabei, die bei Poison vor der Kamera stehen. Sie ist eine der besten Schauspielerinnen, nicht nur Dänemarks, sondern Europas, sondern wahrscheinlich auf der ganzen Welt und wir sind sehr, sehr, sehr geehrt. It's an honor to have you here with us. Please welcome Trine Dyrholm.
Ich wollte eigentlich erst in 2 Stunden anfangen zu weinen.
Musst du jetzt schon weinen?
Ich bin jetzt schon so gerührt.
Désirée, es wird nicht... It's not going to be easier for you because we think if the whole technology team works well, that we also have another guest for this very special panel and we would love to say welcome. I think he's in Paris. Tim Roth.
That's funny.
Now everybody's crying, Tim. So you're already seated comfortably, I think. So let's take a seat and let's start with the talk. Please, Trine, if you want to sit there.
Tim, we miss you so much. Come here, Tim.
It's so weird. Unfortunately, I'm hanging over you like some kind of monster at the moment.
Now you know how I felt all those weeks working with you.
I know, nightmare, right? Yeah. But also, you both look really good, and I've just, you know.
You don't need other than a T-shirt, Tim.
You look very, very, very well, Tim Roth, and it's a pleasure to have you here at the FilmFest Munich. We are very honored, and we're very happy that we can talk about this wonderful film. And since there are so many people here in the audience who, of course, haven't watched this film, I would love to ask you for a very, very short synopsis. Trine, can you tell us what Poison is about, and who do you play?
I play Edith, and Edith was married to Lucas, and now they meet 10 years after. A tragedy happened where they lost their child, and they talk for the first time in 10 years.
And Tim, you obviously play Lucas. What made you say yes to a first-time director from Luxembourg?
The money. No, it's an extraordinary piece of work, and it fascinated me. It came at a very difficult time for me as well. The subject matter was became very close to my heart. But it's an extraordinary piece of work, and the idea of the film being the first conversation that these people have had at this time in their lives was fascinating to me, and it's brilliantly done. And first-time director doesn't has always been a thing in my life anyway. I do the movies to pay the rent, and then I do the ones for love and to keep me inspired as an actor. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing this. I wouldn't be part of this world. So the fact that somebody's first film or early in their process is neither here nor there with me. We're all learning as we go anyway.
Désirée, tell us a bit about how the idea changed and developed, because, I mean, of course, it was a play before by Lot Wekemans, and you've also played Edith, so take us through those, how many years was that? 8, 9, 10?
I first came across this play about 13 years ago and fell in love with it right away. I was blown away. I thought, oh my God, I have rarely read anything that is so beautiful, precise, and even though so much is being said, I found the beauty in what is not being said. And so I was very lucky to be able to play it on a theater stage. And I was directed in those days by Johan Leisen, a wonderful actor and director, unfortunately passed away. And I've been for many years trying to find a topic, a subject, a story that could become my first feature. And I'd done a short film, and that was in 2001. And 10, 12 years had passed. And I always remembered my teacher at UCLA, Mel Brooks, who said, if a story comes your way that sticks to you like a pot of honey, and even though you try to get rid of it and you can't, then maybe that is the story you should tell. And so that happened to me with Poison. And after I was done with the theater version of it, I thought maybe I should really gather all my courage and try and get the rights. And then I was lucky that Lot Wekemans, who is with us here today. Lot, where are you? There she is. I was very lucky that she agreed to meet with me, and we drove to Alexandra, my producing partner, Alexandra Hustov, who's also here. We both, next to Lot, we both drove through Belgium towards the Dutch border, and we met on neutral ground, kind of, and we started talking about it. And Lot, which I really loved because it shows why her play and her work is the way it is, she said, okay, but what's your vision about it? Because she had very specific wishes and ways that she thought she would agree or not agree to give away the rights and turn this into a feature or a movie on a big screen. And so it took a couple of meetings. We agreed. Her vision of the story was very close to mine. We both thought we didn't want to fall into the trap of telling the story through flashbacks or putting an actual face on this child. And so Lot agreed to write the script for the movie version as well. And then we embarked on this beautiful journey that was not always easy, because we had to convince money givers and film funds and co-producing partners that even though for many people it was a small story, for me it is a huge story, because it is about everything that we deal with pretty much on a daily basis. That big emotions belong on a big screen. And so we were at dinner last night, Trine and Lot and I, and found out that it is pretty much exactly 11 years ago that we met at the border between Holland and Belgium. And today we celebrate the premiere on the big screen.
Of course. Trine, Edith is a character who talks about how she feels, and she does that a lot, and she does it in a very strong and expressive way, and that's something in many characters that you play, you don't act like that. So that must have been very interesting for you to play somebody who's so open about how she feels.
Yeah, I mean, this whole project has been a huge challenge for me. To, I mean, I immediately fell in love with the script when I read it, and when I met you the first time, I felt so seen, and I mean, I didn't have any doubts that I wanted to do this film with Désirée. And then when I met Tim on Zoom the first time, we had so much fun, and it kept on being actually. When we shot the whole thing, we laughed a lot, and it was such a good time. And you need that with this heavy material, if you understand what I mean. But the big challenge was to kind of get all the nuances into this much talking, because you have to embody the text, but you also have to vibrate all the time. And what helped me a lot was that we had 2 weeks of rehearsing, and Tim and I was actually sitting in a hotel room and just learning the text. What can we learn from learning the text? What kind of questions will come up? So we spent 2 weeks with that, with just kind of learning the text and getting out of the text what we could. And talk with Désirée about all the questions and stuff. And Tim helped me a lot with the language. He also made a bit fun of me sometimes. The Danish woman, you know, all my essence.
Danish trouble.
But I can take it. No, no. I mean, it was a huge help, of course, that you know, Tim could help me with the language, because that was a big struggle for me sometimes. You know, it's not my mother tongue language, and I just, you know, sometimes it was too much. But a big help. And then when we came on set, we basically just explored the moments. And that's what I believe that acting is about. You have to explore moments, then you have to put them all together, and then hopefully it's received out there. And that's what we could do. It was almost like theater, and it was challenging sometimes to explain how I feel as a character, and then also feel it. But then you have to find the fragility or the contradictions in what you say, and you know, yeah.
Tim, Trine just mentioned the theater, and as we've talked about, it's based on a play, and I think I read an interview with you once, years ago, when you said something about the theater, that you didn't enjoy playing the theater, or that film is so much, you feel so much more comfortable being a film actor than being on stage. So how did you experience that? Did you also feel like, oh, this is very theatre-y, and this is something I don't do as much as probably you do, for example?
No, I put the notion that it was a play aside. Mm-hmm. We now had a film script, and we were making a film. Doing theatre makes me uncomfortable. They keep asking me to do it again, and I've got to do it at some point. But no, I had terrible stage fright. Absolutely awful. I loved it when I was in it, but it was terrifying to me. But with this, we put the notion of it as a play aside, and what was fascinating to me also, it's mostly one conversation. It's a very difficult thing to achieve, and it was and two people who feel very differently about any given moment in that, and there's a, you know, frankly, I think it could have. If we had just done a film of a play, I think it would not necessarily have worked. I think what we did was, what Désirée did was get inside these characters' heads, move with them, and flow with them, we would, as Trine said, we were prepared. We were mostly prepared, I think. We would play with the dialogue, make it fit for our our characters, and then bring it to Désirée, who would shoot it. Again, there was a sense of, I know how I want to shoot this, but there was also a sense of flexibility and improvisation that took place with the camera side of things and the directing and the shooting of it, as much as there was a flexibility with the actors. And so it became a wonderful rapport that we had. It's very unusual, by the way, I think. There was a sense of camaraderie and a sense of flexibility on the set, which doesn't always exist. And as a consequence, we finished early, which doesn't happen.
No,
we really
2
did.
days before. I mean, we
actually finished
2 days
early,
before we should end shooting. We were finished. That was weird.
And
It's
true. And what did you do then?
I
with
mean,
those 2 days?
producers, unfortunately, I'm also produced, but they love me now.
We got some good dinner. That's what we did.
No, but the thing is that this project has some very long scenes, and usually you have 3 sides per day or something. Like one scene is 3 days when you do films. But here we had like some days with 11 pages or 13 pages. So in the production schedule, it was 2 days for this big sequence, and then suddenly we just did it in 1 day because it was one long scene, and that was.
Do you remember, Trine? Do you remember when we were actually amazed ourselves? Like, wait a minute, we're done.
Exactly. Was that 11 pages? Yeah.
And then I had Judith Kaufmann, the wonderful Judith, our DOP, who would say to me, "Shh, don't say anything. Let's just go and shoot some birds. Production doesn't like this. They're going to give us next time. So let's shoot some graves."
Fill the schedule.
Fill the schedule.
Tim, you mentioned that in your first answer, and I'd like to ask you, but tell me if you don't feel comfortable talking about this. But of course, the shoot of this film happened in a time in your life when you experienced a terrible loss, and playing a man who lost a child while you were saying goodbye to your own child must have been, I don't know. I mean, were you thinking about quitting? Did you think about, I can't do this. This is too much now?
No, it didn't. It didn't have that effect on me. Where we were with our son was he had been diagnosed with cancer, and we were feeling, as you have to, we were feeling as positive as we could. We were, and as far as we were concerned, on the horizon was success and was the cure and all of those things, which didn't materialize, unfortunately. But as far as the subject was concerned, in a sense, I felt, although it was a very difficult, emotionally very difficult time, I felt lucky to be able to be a part of that. It felt, and I talked to my son about it while we were filming, and it felt kind of providential. It felt right to be doing that somehow. It wasn't as if it was. I can't remember whereabouts in the diagnosis we were, but it wasn't an egotistical move on my part to do a film about this while we were going. It wasn't some kind of bullshit method acting nonsense. It had nothing to do with that. It was a script that found its way to me, and I fell in love like Trine did. I fell in love with it, and then it was okay. How best to do this? I took my boy with me on the journey, but he was a passenger, and there were long conversations, but he was happy for me to do it, and felt that it was the right kind of journey to make. Yeah.
Of course. As the director for that very, very beautiful but also very, very difficult film, of course, Désirée, how did you take care of basically everyone with Tim going through this, and how do you take care of the people, you know, that you don't ask for too much?
I mean, my way of functioning is pure love, honestly. So I vividly remember the day that I found out, and Tim was opening up to me. It was on a Zoom call that his family was going through this tragedy. And I remember I stopped him right away and I said, Tim, I totally understand if you are now telling me you cannot do this movie anymore. That was totally clear to me that I would not in a second try to convince him or tell him otherwise, or but I also knew that moment that I would not do that movie. My movie was with, by then Tim was my Lucas, the way Trine was my Edith, and that's just me. I could not have done it any other way. And Tim said, no, that's not why I'm calling you. I just want you to know, and if sometimes maybe I need a moment on set or I have to leave set, just so you know. And I thought, oh my God, of course. I'm crying now, as you can tell. And we had this unspoken thing, if I may say, Tim, that I just looked at him in the morning and I chose not to ask him every day, how are you doing and how's your son doing? Because I know that, what do you want to say in a situation like that? I mean, I also have a son who has issues, and you do not want to, you know, explain every day how it's going or not going, because sometimes you don't even know yourself. So we had this thing. I would look at Tim and I would see how, or try as much as you can in a situation like that, to feel how he was doing, and then try and make him feel safe. I think, and that's what I tried with Trine as good as I could too. What they were both saying before, you know, this is the kind of movie that I had a plan, but the best stuff is when you can throw your plan away, because your two actors give you such a huge gift that you don't need to fall back onto your plan B, C, D, whatever it was. Yes, I was prepared, and yes, I had my shots, like maybe a very over-eager first-time director does, and if Tim would have asked me, how do you see the scene, I could have probably told me like this, like that, like that. But by then I had understood that Trine and Tim had embarked on their own journey with the material, and that what they were willing to give us was so much greater and bigger that I could have asked for, that I just said, the only thing I need to do here with, of course, I need to really stress the fact that Judith Kaufmann was my rock during this production. Judith became almost, with her camera, the third lead. What she embarked on was almost like a dance with Trine and Tim on this set. And I just knew I need to just make them feel safe. I never, ever, ever wanted to be a voyeur. That is really, really very important to me. And just go with, it's like a symphony, you know, go with the rhythm, go with the flow. And I think that's what I tried to do, and I hope I did, make them feel safe and loved. And that's, yeah, that's how I look at it.
When you watch the film, of course, when you watch the film in 1.5 hours, I think for me it was very, very interesting how my sympathies for the both of them develop when I watch the film, and it changes. And sometimes I feel closer to Edith. I feel Edith's. I feel her anger so much, and then I understand Luca so much, and then I feel sympathy for the both of them. And I think it's very, very interesting how you do that, and how, of course, you both play these roles. And How do you approach that, Trine, as an actor? Do you need sympathy? Do you have to understand that character you play in every single second? How do you approach a character like that?
For me, it's very important not to think about sympathy, but to think about how do you invite the audience into the inner chaos of a character. That's important because I don't want to judge anybody. I want to understand what they are dealing with. And that's always how I see acting, that I borrow the eyes of the actor and then I look at the world from their perspective. And that is actually, it's a big privilege to try to imagine another perspective in life. And I'm very humble about, their perspective, and I try to understand what they are dealing with. And I don't understand it really before I do it. Before we do the scene and I react to Tim, and sometimes I have the feeling when I act that even though we have done so much preparation, then you do the scene and then you realize, oh, she was angry now. And it's kind of that it has nothing to do with that. I don't know the difference between real life, and it has nothing to do with that. But you kind of have to get out in a place and see what happens instead of knowing what happens. Have decided what happens, and that I'm very interested in. How can we? We prepare everything, the camera is there, you have to go from this chair up to here, but you still have to experience it for the first time. So we have to invite the audience into that process. So you don't want to be ahead. You don't want the character to know more than the audience should know. I mean, you want to invite the audience into that journey with the character, and that's so interesting. And so it's not about sympathy, or is it a likable character or not, or I think every character is interesting if they are done in a nuanced way, and if they are done without judgment, kind of. And so that's what I believe in, and I just want to say that you cannot act well if you don't, of course, have a good script. You need a good script, but you definitely need generosity on set. And that is what you talk about, love. I call it generosity. It's the same thing. And the older I get, the more important for me it is with generosity when you work, because that is what can open us up and go out there where we don't know what will happen now. It's a little scary, but it's worth it if you feel that you're doing it together. And that's the way we communicate with acting and with our stories. We want to reach somebody out there. We're trying to dig into the existential emotions and share them together. That's why we make movies.
Of course, we want to open the whole discussion and the whole talk to you, the audience, because you are the most important people when it comes to watching films. And so this is your chance. You can ask any sort of question. Do you already have one on your mind? Yes, please.
I have a question for Trine.
Wait, we have a microphone. Just wait for a second.
He's running.
Oh God.
He's running with the mic.
So my question is about your process in the preparation. You earlier mentioned the difficulties with not acting in your native language, and specifically about how you prepared when it came to script analysis, or I assume you have a process that you usually go through for your Danish films, and how did that differ doing it in English? And did you take your notes in English now, or were they in Danish on the script, and just that process?
Both. I do my notes in whatever language is possible. I have a lot of like dots and like things also. I don't know what language that is, but I mean there's always some special challenge to work in another language that you're not fluent in, of course, because you don't want to make a voice, You want to find the voice of the character. And here, Désirée didn't care about accent, so I just had to put my own worries aside. But of course, it makes me a little more insecure. Of course, but I'm not afraid of that. I like to be challenged in all kinds of ways. But the preparation for me mostly is about to find out the vision of the director, actually. And you do it kind of you just get to know how do you think, and then I mean, in this piece, it was so obvious that it was me and Tim, and we had to have a connection, and we were lucky that it was there from the beginning. And of course, there are always challenges, the weather, whatever happens. But I mean, we have to dare to explore. And if we are not there for each other, then you can't do anything. So that's the most thing. Actually, the most important thing for me is to prepare to dare. I don't know how else to say it, actually, because I have to learn the lines, I have to understand a lot of things, but you don't understand it until you do it. And I can have a lot of analysis. In some films, you need to learn how to fight, or you need to have some skills. That's the concrete preparation. But to kind of crawl into a character, and it's like a slowly crawl. That's how I see it. I don't want to be too clever too early. That's how I work. I mean, yeah. I don't know if that's an answer, but that was an answer.
If I may interrupt for a little second, when you're a first-time director, of course, when you have your wish cast, your dream cast, and then you get lucky that they both agree to do your movie, but of course you've never seen them together in a room, and you've never met them, and of course I, Désirée, cannot say, well, let me do a casting with Mr. Roth and see if this is going to work out, or the same for Trine Dyrholm. So you can only go by their body of work that you've seen, or pictures, and then of course the talks you had in those days, also because of COVID, through Zoom. And then I was so overjoyed that they both agreed, but then of course came the little moment of, oh my God, I hope it fits. I hope there is that chemistry amongst them that Trine was just referring to. And then, of course, you look up, how tall is Tim? How tall is Trine? She's blonde, he's this. Does this fit? Is this going to work? And I will never forget the moment I had Judith Kaufmann sitting next to me. We are almost holding hands underneath the table. The moment had arrived where they both had traveled to Luxembourg, and they were arriving in Vianden into this room, where we were supposed to have a table read. They walked in. And Judith looks at me and she says, "We have a movie."
Then I saw a lot of hands up here. Do we have a microphone ready?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, I have a question to Trine, and 2 questions. Do you have a very strong vision of the scene before you go to the set, how you would like to play it? Second question, do you change the lines of the script? So, of your character?
No, I never have a vision. I mean, I think it's dangerous to have too clear of a vision. I have an intuition of the scene, I would say, beforehand. And then what was the question? Change lines. I have a lot of films that I do where I'm invited in at an early stage and I'm co-creative, as it's called, like, you know, you give notes on the script and you help out. This was different because it was so finished when I got the script. So we changed not much, actually. We took out some things. Yeah. We took out some things, and it was not a normal shoot in this way where you just say whatever you think you should say. I've done a lot of films. I just came out with a film called Birthday Girl recently, and it's a lot of improvisation, and you know, that's just a different kind of work. So it depends on how the script is. And this script is based on a play, and now it's adapted to a film. So it was not like it's too compact. You don't just improvise like whatever you feel like. The text is really complex. So it's, yeah.
Then sorry.
Hello, my question is, how do you prepare for sad scenes? Do you have your thing, what you do before you shoot your scene, or how do you prepare as a crew? Yeah, that's my question.
As a whole team, or?
No, you as an actress.
Me? Well, I actually always think about that we don't want to see too much crying. I mean, we don't want to see the let go, because that's very undramatic, if you understand what I mean. You don't want to see people like arguing and fighting. That's also very undramatic. But you need to see them fighting against their emotions in a way. I mean, you want to see a character that don't want to cry, but she can't help it. And you want to see an argument where suddenly they are embarrassed that they are screaming so loud. And that's real life. That's human beings. I mean, we don't just have a feeling, now I cry, now I laugh. You know, it has to vibrate. It has to go in and out of emotions. That's what I believe in. So I don't think here she will cry or here she will break. Of course, you sometimes have scenes where you know that this is the point where they can't hold on anymore. And you have to just get some tiger balm or whatever, blow in your eyes. I mean, you can get a lot of help with technical things, but you still have to do all the emotional stuff. Because crying is just like, that's just water that gets out of the eyes. But like to receive, to actually get the emotion out to the audience, that takes contradictions. That's my belief. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know if it was an answer. It's just like...
Can I ask you, Tim, if you look at the art of acting in a similar way, like Trine does, or is that a very different approach and still you obviously matched so well?
I think with something like that, there's quite often I try not to make a plan. Sometimes you find out what the scene is about when you're doing the first take, or what it's not about, by the way, as well. I think when you're doing the first take. So as much as you may prepare, as much as you may rehearse, as much as you may have something in mind, you really have to get it on its feet and run it around. And even if you do that before you start filming, it's not necessarily what you find when you are actually filming. There's something about when the camera has been switched on you, on us, that the scene just tends to come alive. There's a magical quality, and that is, for what directors are looking for too. I think for scenes, especially with something like this, the scenes were constantly taking us by surprise, and I think that was very important. As much as we thought we knew what the scene was about, suddenly it would take a sharp turn and lead us down an alleyway which we weren't expecting, and that's the magic of a good script, I think. But you have to feel free, I think, to be able to explore, and you need a safe pair of hands at the helm, and that's what Désirée gave us. You can fall flat on your ass and make a complete fool of yourself, but you need to feel safe that you can do that as part of the journey to getting the scene right. So, its short answer would be, we had a feeling of what the scenes were about, but we found them when we were up and moving, and when Désirée said action, somehow they came alive. They went to a different place, and that's a magical feeling. It's kind of, for me, that's what I'm looking for. I want to be surprised by everything, and we constantly were with this. Fascinating.
Tim, what I loved about working with you, and I'm still in awe thinking back, is you, for me, are the master of deconstructing. You take something and you take it apart completely. He shreds it to pieces, puts it back together, and then it is his own. It has his truth, and it is amazing. And that is something I have really admired watching, and I learned so much from you, observing you doing that. You really, it's not that he changes it. No, he does that very, very respectfully towards the material. But he does deconstruct it, puts it back together, and then it becomes a very personal way of doing it. So that's pretty amazing.
I'm torn because I feel like we should just keep you here forever and ask you all these questions we have about acting. But then on the other hand, there's a world premiere that you have to attend. So
I was just getting comfortable forgetting about the world premiere. Sorry.
Do we have to go?
Well, I mean, I'd love to have you here with us, but do you feel comfortable answering a last question, or do you feel like you really want to go? No, it's up to you. They start feeling comfortable. Now, not 10 hands. This is not fair.
Sophie has a question.
Then, do we have a microphone ready?
Sophie? Here.
Then it's two.
Yes, speak up, Sophie.
Could you just pass the mic to Sophie so Tim can hear her?
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Otherwise, Tim can't hear.
I'm really, really uncomfortable with the microphone, but anyway. Okay, it's a question for all three of you. And for me, I'd like to know about rhythm, because from what you told us, the whole process of rehearsing and then shooting feels very fluid and tactile in a way, and of all of you feeling so comfortable and at home with the words, and then going to set and a tactile way of knowing where the emotion is. And obviously, I guess it's in the words and in the play, but something like anger or sadness or whatever, it can be very on the exterior, or it can be very quiet on the inside. So I guess it's something that you found out while you were shooting it. And I wondered, sort of, for you as the actors, and also for you, Désirée, as the director, do you have a vision for the whole film? Like, because I guess you need changes in temperature in a way. You need an inner rhythm for in the end to sort of keep the audience close and with the characters. So if it's very loud for a very long time, I guess you just stop listening, or if it's getting sort of too low, same thing there. Is it something that you were reflecting while doing it, or is it in the editing where you're shooting it chronologically? I guess you would.
Yes.
Would make sense, yeah. But that I'd be really interested in. Is something you discussed? Is it something while you were directing, or? Yeah.
I mean, it is of course something that, in a way, was also kind of in the script. But then again, when you get on your feet, it becomes a different thing. And depending who your actors are, they bring, of course, their own palette of colors to the table. What was really always important to me, and something that I was trying to protect like a hawk, was that these two characters, Edith and Lucas, would always be at eye level. I never wanted anybody to think the woman is weak, the man is a coward, he leaves, he grieves not as much as she does because she's staying stuck in her pain. I always wanted them to surprise the audience. When you think like, oh, maybe, oh, now she is getting on my nerves, then he comes around the corner and you go, oh my God, but now that's why she is like that. And then it goes back and forth like a ping pong play. And I always wanted that to keep the balance so that we could come out of the movie with two strong characters that go on in their lives and that have become stronger and more powerful because they met and they talked and they gave each other permission to be happy again. It is, for me, it is a huge love story. But so, of course, to get back to your question, there were moments, we did shoot chronologically. We really tried. That was something I demanded of my producers and my team. I said, please, please, please. I mean, being an actor myself, this is not material where you do the end, you jump in the middle, and you come back to... and we had challenges, even though we finished early, but we had 4 seasons in a day sometimes. So it was not always easy for Judith and her team. And yes, the rhythm, to me, a movie is like a symphony, or any work we actually do. So the rhythm did sometimes change according to what I had envisioned, because the actors were giving me something else. But that was so beautiful that I tried to look at it and said, okay, there was a crescendo here, so maybe now we have to be careful and tune it down a bit here so that the audience does not go, oh my God, there's too much talking or screaming going on here. And that is something that we all together, all of us, I mean, this is a love fest and teamwork, we did together on set, and that, of course, I also kept a very close eye on during the editing process. There were things in the editing process where since I had heard from so many people that were supporting the movie financially, I mean, thank God they did, we have to open this up, we have to open this up, and then you try to open it up, and then you go, no, it did not feel right. You want to be with these two people, and you do not want to get away from them. So that, in a way, told me that it was the right, gut feeling that they will take us by their hands and then take us through the story. I hope I am answering your question, but it was a fine-tuning on a maybe daily basis, trying to make sure that you would always keep them, at eye level at the end of the story.
It feels a bit like building blocks in the way of usually when shooting a movie, it's so fragmented with it going back and forth and different sets and everything. And here I guess you carry the feeling from the day before, and it's,
I guess, we got lucky. Of course, this cannot be done on every shoot. Of course not. I mean, this is the beauty of having 2 people in one set, But I would not want to change it for anything. So
I think it's a huge challenge because it's you have nothing you can hide behind.
That's true. Yes,
it's very.
Thank you.
So I would allow one last question. because then you really have to go. And we don't want to put any more stress on you. So,
yeah. Oh my
yes,
God. Okay.
Please.
My question is to Tim and Trine. A last one, very general one. But do you have any tips for like just starting actors? Like something where you're like, okay, wish I could tell that my younger self when I just started and got into like playing in movies. Maybe like the approach to acting or like the craft of acting in general. Yeah.
Yeah. Should I start or you want to start, Tim? I start.
Go for it.
Okay.
Maybe I'll...
No, I just want to say find your creative people. I mean, I grew up with some young directors that learned me a lot and we grew up together. And it's about finding a way to practice, but it's also very good to meet people that you can grow up with and find a voice with. And I mean, I grew up with two women, and I did like 4 films with them each. But we met when I was at the theater school, and they were at the film school, and you know. So in the beginning, we were just like some people that made something together, and suddenly we had a language. And so for me, it's really about finding your creative friends and develop together. That's one thing. And then I think there is no face it. There is not a way to be good, but you have to find out what you're burning for and your kind of like approach. And you can always be inspired by watching a lot of people, but there is not a right way to do it. There is the only right way, I think, is to dare. And that is the most difficult thing, actually. But you can always find people that help you to dare. And you can also find the opposite, people that tells you what is right and wrong, and tells you that you cannot do this, you cannot do that, whatever. That's bullshit. You can do everything you want, but you have to find your way, and that's the right way for you. That's what I think.
Should I jump in? Real quick. I agree. The thing that you, you learn by doing. So you have to find a place to do this. Also, when people tell you no, then that's actually part of the process of learning too. If somebody says no to you, I always felt that it was because something better was around the corner. And it wasn't with these people. It's coming down the road. I always feel that, still feel that to this day. But you learn in the doing. I never studied formally as an actor at all, but I fell in love with it when I was at high school, when I was stupidly, as a joke, auditioned for a play and ended up having to do it because the teacher took me by the scruff of the neck and threw me into it. Bless her, love her for it. But then I didn't know how to audition. I didn't know any of those things. I hadn't got a clue what this was all about, except that inside of me there was I felt like I'd fallen in love with something. And so she showed me how to. She put me in little community theatres. She showed me how to find out about auditions that were going on for pub theatres in London and stuff like that. You know, what an equity card was, I had no idea. But I took advice from, as Trine was saying, and you take advice from the people you feel are giving you the right advice, or the most terrifying advice, and you go down that road and you face your demons. As far as the learning of it, you learn from the people around you, like Trine was saying. You learn in the doing, and that includes failure too, absolute failure. And learn from your failures, learn from your mistakes. Keep pushing. It's fun, it's terrifying, but it beats working for a living.
I think, Tim, you gave us the perfect subline for our talk. When we put it on YouTube, we call it "It's fun, it's terrifying, the art of acting." So I would love to say thank you so much for taking your time, Tim, to talk to us and join us here for this very special day. So I would love to say thank you, of course, to Tim Roth, to Trine Dyrholm, and of course, to Désirée Nosbusch.
Thank you, Tim.
Let me know how it goes.